Joe Biden has surged to a huge lead in the Democratic Party. And in second place is Bernie Sanders. Over the past few weeks, Warren has shot to the top of the polls. The rise of Pete Buttigieg. And New Hampshire has an outbreak of chlamydia. Here's something you only hear every 4 years. Everyone is talking about Iowa. Yeah. Because last night was the Iowa caucuses, right? The first vote of the Democratic primary campaign. And normally, we would know by now who'd won. In fact, normally we would have known last night. But this year, Democrats decided to use a new app to help count the votes. And it has not gone as planned.
The only results from the Iowa caucus at this hour are chaos and confusion.
Chaos, confusion, meltdown. Pick your adjective to describe the Iowa caucuses.
What a mess. This is not the finish that anyone expected.
It certainly was a mess, and some here are calling it a disaster.
Organizers in the state cite a domino effect of problems for the delay, several issues with a new app where results were to be inputted.
They had a really crummy app that screwed up the entire thing.
Right now, no idea when we are going to know the results.
So everyone really is just waiting for these official results.
So we wait, and at the moment we have nothing.
So because of this app, the whole night was thrown into utter chaos. Nobody knew what the problem was. Nobody knew who won. And eventually the candidates got tired of waiting. And they came out to try and spin the non-results in the best way they could. Oh, we're happy, things are great, this is going to be good for us. But one candidate in particular took that to the next level.
So we're still waiting for any results from last night's Iowa Democratic caucuses, but that hasn't stopped candidates from spinning the non-existent results. Former Mayor of South Bend, Pete Buttigieg, declared victory overnight. Listen.
We know by the time it's all said and done, Iowa, you have shocked the nation. By all indications, we are going on to New Hampshire victorious.
Oh, okay, Pete. You're just gonna come out and claim victory even though no results were in at that point? That's a pretty bold move. I mean, maybe that's just his thing. Maybe Pete does that. Anytime anything's ambiguous, no one knows, he just jumps in. You know, like, now, nobody knows who built Stonehenge. He's like, oh, it was me, I did it. I did it. Only about 3/4 of the ballots are in. So we still don't know who officially won. But as it stands, it's a close race between Bernie Sanders, the world's youngest old man, and Pete Buttigieg, the world's oldest young man. But regardless of how it ends, no one is around to give a victory speech because the candidates have already moved on.
For some reason in Iowa, they're having a little bit of trouble counting votes. But I am confident that here in New Hampshire, I know that you'll be able to count your votes on election night.
Man, this is what I love about Bernie Sanders. He does not give a damn. Because he spent a year sucking up to Iowa, and then 5 minutes after he's left, he's already roasting their ass. Yeah, he's just like, I want to talk about the 99% of people in Iowa who have no idea what the they're doing. I hope Bernie does this for every state. You know, as soon as he's on to the next primary, he's in Nevada next week, like, great to be out of New Hampshire, or as I call it, dirty Massachusetts. Coming out of the Iowa primary, the big winners were Bernie Sanders, Pete Buttigieg, and anyone who didn't build that shitty app. And last night in New Hampshire, those top two kept their momentum going.
With a win in New Hampshire, Senator Bernie Sanders taking control as the Democratic frontrunner, but not too far behind him, Pete Buttigieg. Despite winning the popular vote in both Iowa and New Hampshire, Sanders is behind in the overall delegate race by 2.
One of the night's other big winners, Senator Amy Klobuchar, who took 3rd place. She capitalized on the moment by reintroducing herself to the country.
Hello, America. I'm Amy Klobuchar, and I will beat Donald Trump.
Yes, last night may have been the best night for Bernie Sanders since he won that free cruise on Noah's Ark, but New Hampshire's biggest surprise was Amy Klobuchar, who burst into the national spotlight with a 3rd place finish. And the timing couldn't be better for Klobuchar. Because in many ways, you see, the presidential campaigns are like getting drunk at a party, right? You want to peak at the right time. See, the other candidates, they had their surge last year, which was too early. It's like getting wasted at 6 p.m. Yeah. Because by the time the party's really going, you're puking in the bushes like, I'm so sorry, I didn't pace myself. I promise I'll do better in South Carolina. So there's no denying that New Hampshire was great for Amy Klobuchar's campaign. And it was also a great night for news people who love wordplay.
Senator Amy Klobuchar rode the Clomentum.
Are you feeling Clomentum?
Clomentum is real, and she has it.
A Clobasurge.
Clomentum.
Clomentum.
Clomentum, Clobucharged, Clobusurge.
They call it Clomotion.
Is there Clomentum?
Oh, this is fun. I want to try. It's clobering time. Yeah. She gave them the old clopadope. Yeah, New Hampshire has an outbreak of chlamydia. All right, I'm done. She killed it like Chloe J. Simpson. Okay, I'm done. No more. So for Bernie, Buttigieg, and Klobuchar, New Hampshire was a dream. But unfortunately for some other big-name candidates, it turned into a nightmare.
Another major New Hampshire headline, the candidates who fell far behind, including longtime national frontrunner Joe Biden and Senator Elizabeth Warren. Both failed to get enough votes to earn any delegates. Before the race was called, Biden, who placed fifth, was on a plane to South Carolina, which will hold the nation's next primary.
Biden saw the writing on the wall. He had left even before the polls had closed, live streaming into his campaign's New Hampshire watch party.
Oh, Joe Biden left New Hampshire before the polls were even closed? I mean, I've heard of fans leaving the game early, but you know it's bad when the team leaves early to beat the traffic. The coach is just like, all right, guys, screw the fourth quarter. Let's just start the bus.
The race is getting smaller as of last night's results. We did see the suspension or termination of presidential campaigns by Andrew Yang and Senator Michael Bennet.
Tonight is not going to be our night, but let me say this to New Hampshire. You may see me once again.
You know, I am the math guy, and it is clear tonight from the numbers that we are not going to win this race. We'll be back soon. In the meantime, though, thank you all. God bless you, and God bless the United States of America.
I'm not gonna lie, I don't get why candidates always say they'll be back when they know they won't. No, I know they don't want to seem like a loser, but why not just be honest, you know? Why not just be like, New Hampshire, you guys are never gonna see me ever again. Like, it's the same problem with movie villains. Even when they're falling off a cliff or a building at the end, they're like, oh, be back. No, you won't. Like, it would be nice if they were honest, just like, you and your family are safe forever. This weekend, Las Vegas saw two of the craziest knockouts of all time. Wilder versus Fury, and Bernie versus everyone.
This morning, feeling the burn. Bernie Sanders dominating in Nevada. Sanders not only taking the silver state, but besting his rivals among Latinos, winning both men and women, college and non-college graduates, and even scoring votes from moderates.
I am a U.S. Senator, and I got a big ego, and I appreciate the Bernie. But it ain't Bernie, it is us.
Damn, Bernie is really committed to socialism, right? Even when the crowd is trying to cheer for him, he wants to share it back with them. I wonder if he's always like this. Like on his birthday, are they like, happy birthday to you? He's like, no, to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. No, to all of us. It's all of our birthday. In fact, you should make a wish. My wish already came true. I got socks. But yes, Bernie Sanders won big in Vegas. And I'm not surprised. If anyone needs free college and free healthcare, it's a city full of people who lost all their money playing slots. And Bernie won big with all the big Nevada demographics. That's what made this so impressive. Young people, old people, white, Latino, blue, bent, feathered, everybody. Which bolstered his electability arguments. But there's still one sizable demographic that Bernie hasn't won over. And it's the other Democrats in the race.
With the rise of Sanders, his opponents are beginning to take him on.
Senator Sanders believes in an inflexible, ideological revolution that leaves out most Democrats, not to mention most Americans.
Some believe that the way to beat Donald Trump is to be just as polarizing.
Biden with Casey Hunt dismissing Sanders' efforts to tie himself to former President Obama.
The way he talks about it, you'd think he and Barack were close buddies.
And you think they were not?
I know they were not.
Ooh, I know they were not. It's a little weird that the Democratic primary has become a fight about who is actually friends with Obama. Because have you noticed, everyone is dropping his name. He's in all of their ads, but he's been silent this entire campaign. It's almost like Obama is the imaginary friend all the Democrats have. It's just like, I saw Obama today, and he told me I'm the bestest candidate, and that I should be president, but nobody else saw him because he hides when the grown-ups come. So, after the Nevada caucus, the Democratic nomination picture is becoming clearer. Warren and Klobuchar need a miracle to get back in the race. Biden and Buttigieg are fighting desperately to be the moderate alternative, and as it stands, Bernie seems to be on a clear path to winning the most delegates. And I can tell you now, when he wins them, Bernie ain't sharing shit. It's not us, it's me. This Saturday was the South Carolina primary, where Biden desperately needed a victory. And boy, did he get it.
Biden's big win. Joe Biden gets the landslide victory he needed in South Carolina.
Joe Biden trounced Bernie Sanders in that race to give his campaign more momentum going into Super Tuesday.
Biden and Sanders are really neck and neck in several of these states.
Just days ago, the press and the pundits declared my candidacy dead. Now, thanks to the heart of the Democratic Party in South Carolina, I'm very much alive.
Yes, Joe Biden is very much alive, which isn't something candidates usually need to remind people, but that's still okay. It's a great campaign slogan. Take it, man, just take it. But yes, thanks to the overwhelming support of black voters, Biden isn't just in the race, he's back to being the favorite, which is an amazing turnaround. But that's black people for you, man. Black people can make anything popular again. Like, think about it. Before black people, Biden was losing. And then black people came in, and now he's back on top. Before black people, everyone was focused on boobs. And then black people came in like, how about butts? And then everyone was like, oh yeah, butts, yeah. Now, Joe Biden's win in South Carolina was so commanding that it didn't just put him ahead in the polls. It got 3 other candidates to drop out of the race.
The moderate wing of this party seems to be moving at a pretty quick pace, right, to all unite around Joe Biden.
Amy Klobuchar announcing today she will drop out along with Pete Buttigieg and Tom Steyer over the weekend. Both Buttigieg and Klobuchar are now expected to endorse former Vice President Joe Biden.
Yeah, that's right. First, Tom Steyer dropped out. Then, Pete Buttigieg ended his historic run as the first openly robot candidate. And we all know that once a gay guy sets a trend, white women aren't going to be far behind. So then Klobuchar dropped out too. So if you're Joe Biden, these past few days are some of the best of your life. Think about it. For Biden, he's made the ultimate comeback. Your opponents aren't just dropping out, they're also endorsing you. And to top it all off, Joe Bidens are now the #2 dentures on Amazon. Yeah, right behind the Donald Trumps, best in the United States. Super Tuesday is super important because whichever nominee comes out on top tonight gets a big boost in the race for the Democratic nomination. And you also get all the losing candidates' lunch money. So let's kick it off with a few of the results that we already know, right? Vermont was easily won by the original founder of the state, Bernie Sanders. Already off to a win. And we know that Colorado has also gone his way. But it's looking like tonight is all about Joe Biden because black voters just put him over the top all across the South. In Virginia, he won by 30%. And he's also been declared the winner in North Carolina and in Alabama. So right now, black people are embracing Biden so hard, I wouldn't be surprised if he rolls up to his next debate speech just like, Wakanda for, you know the thing, As it stands, it looks like this Super Tuesday is a lot more dramatic than previously anticipated. Because remember a few weeks ago, people were saying that Bernie was going to clean up, right? But then after Biden dominated South Carolina, he was neck and neck with Bernie. And what's propelled him even further was getting help from a few new friends.
Former Vice President Joe Biden is riding into Super Tuesday on a fresh wave of support. 3 of his former rivals, Pete Buttigieg, Amy Klobuchar, and Beto O'Rourke, made last-minute endorsements before today's critical votes. At a dueling rally, Senator Bernie Sanders spoke in Minnesota, Senator Klobuchar's home state, where he extended an olive branch.
To all of Amy and Pete's millions of supporters, the door is open. Come on in.
The door is open, but close it after you walk in. Air conditioning isn't cheap. Come on, quickly, quickly, quickly. But yes, last night was big for Joe Biden because he got all the endorsements of his former rivals. Yeah, Buttigieg came out to say Joe is the only one who could unite the party. Klobuchar came out to say that Joe is the best choice for moderates. And Beto O'Rourke came out to remind people he still exists. I was the guy who dropped the F-bombs. So you don't have to be a genius. You don't have to be a genius to notice that the Democratic Party right now is at a crossroads. On one side, you've got Bernie's revolution. On the other side, Biden's return to normalcy. Going into Super Tuesday, the Democratic field had been narrowed down to 4 main candidates, which is a long way from the original 6,000. And as the dust began to settle, it became clear there were 2 winners and 2 losers. Elizabeth Warren, one of the night's losers. You see, she failed to pick up a single state. And to add insult to injury, in her home state of Massachusetts, she came in 3rd. Yeah, which is pretty rough. It's like if you came home to find your parents had replaced you with another child. Just be like, sorry, honey, we'd like Joe Biden to be our daughter now. But she wasn't the only one with a disappointing evening. Yeah, another candidate who hit a low point was Mike Bloomberg, former New York mayor and best person to sit behind at a concert. Because after spending the GDP of a small country on his campaign, his quest for the nomination ended in failure.
We come in with this Fox News alert. Super Tuesday made for a super shakeup. Democrat Mike Bloomberg today dropped out of the race after his dismal showing last night.
Yesterday was a disaster for Bloomberg. He spent more than $500 million and won only a few dozen delegates. Last night, campaigning in Florida, Bloomberg tried to sound upbeat.
No matter how many delegates we win tonight, we have done something no one else thought was possible.
That's right. We spent $500 million to absolutely eat shit. They said it couldn't be done, but we did it. We did it.
Now, the reason Bloomberg is dropping out now, after just one bad night, is that you must remember he entered the race to be the moderate alternative to Bernie Sanders. But last night, the voters were very clear that they already know who they want their moderate candidate to be.
The night belonged to Joe Biden.
They don't call Super Tuesday for nothing.
The former vice president with a massive comeback on the biggest night of the primary so far.
A fired-up Joe Biden celebrating his historic night, racking up a string of commanding victories, including a clean sweep of states in the South and a stunning win in delegate-rich Texas.
The press and the pundits have declared the campaign dead. Tell that to the folks in Virginia, North Carolina, Alabama, Tennessee, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Minnesota.
Hey, that's a Joe Biden we haven't seen in a while. Look at him, huh? Smiling, full of energy, naming states that actually exist. No, because let's be honest, we were all waiting for him to give a shout out to Massachusetts. I'm serious, I don't think I've seen Biden this happy since that time Obama taught him how to ride a bike. This has been a while, I mean. And of course, no Joe Biden speech would be complete without a few moments where the Wi-Fi dropped out.
It's a good night, and it seems to be getting even better. By the way, this is my little sister, Valerie, and I'm Jill's husband. Oh, no, this is oh, you switched on me. This is my wife, this is my sister. They switched on me.
No, Joe. Really? Joe Biden called his sister his wife? That's an awkward mistake. And if you are going to talk about your sister wife, you should have done it sooner because then you could have won Utah. Yeah. Now, the sister wife thing was just a silly gaffe that didn't derail the night. What did cause a bit of concern was when 2 protesters stormed the stage.
During Biden's speech, protesters rushing the stage. You see it there, coming within feet of the former vice president and Dr. Jill Biden, his wife. One woman was swiftly removed by the former vice president's body man. Then moments later, see it again, a second protester storming onto the stage.
Simone Sanders, his senior advisor, she just comes out of nowhere, flies on stage and rips one of the protesters off.
Dr. Jill Biden protecting her husband by shoving off a protester that was storming the stage. Her response, I'm a Philly girl.
Yo. That Jill Biden, see that? Stepped in and blocked that protester like a white lady Jackie Chan. Bam! I mean, I knew she was a doctor. I just didn't know her PhD was in ass whipping. That was amazing. And it wasn't just Biden's wife. Yeah, his senior campaign advisor, Simone Sanders, did you see that? She handled that protester like a professional bodyguard. Hell, Biden's got more women protecting him than T'Challa. Like, he's just killing it out here. No wonder he's winning the black vote. So overall, it was a good night for Biden. But don't forget, this contest is far from over. Because this race is all about winning delegates, right? Not just states, but delegates. And even with his good night last night, Biden is still basically neck and neck with Bernie in the delegate count. All right? And up until this point, these two have been super friendly on the campaign trail, laughing, hugging at the debates. But something tells me those days might be over.
This morning, it's now a two-man race. Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders is already sharpening his attacks against Biden.
One of us in this race led the opposition to the war in Iraq. You're looking at him. Another candidate voted for the war in Iraq. One of us has spent his entire life fighting against cuts in Social Security, wanting to expand Social Security. Another candidate has been on the floor of the Senate calling for cuts to Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and Veterans Program.
That's right. One of us is a bitch ass, the other person is me. You know who I'm talking about. Spread the word. Yeah, people, you can see the gloves are officially off. The dentures are in. And things are about to get messy between these two. Not just because there's Vicks Vapor Rub everywhere, no, because this is the home stretch to find out who will be the Democratic nominee. And Bernie, if you're going to attack Joe Biden, I wish you the best of luck. But remember not to get too close, because then you'll have to deal with Jill. After Super Tuesday, voters basically decided the race should be between Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders. So Michael Bloomberg promptly dropped out. And now, in the wise words of the philosopher DJ Khaled, another one.
We begin with today's big breaking 2020 news. Senator Elizabeth Warren is dropping out.
Warren speaking out on her decision to suspend her campaign.
Gender in this race, you know, that is the trap question for every woman. If you say, yeah, there was sexism in this race, everyone says whiner. And if you say, no, there was no sexism, about a bazillion women think, what planet do you live on? I promise you this, I will have a lot more to say on that subject later on.
Damn. Elizabeth Warren has a good point. Yeah, because like it or not, that was some truth that she dropped there. A woman addressing sexism or ignoring it while running for president is either going to be seen as a whiner or living on another planet, which is unfair, especially since the president is already a whiner who lives on another planet. And whether you think sexism played a role or not, you have to admit it's pretty strange that a race that started with a broad tapestry of candidates is now basically down to two old white men. Yeah, they're so old that no matter which one of them wins, Donald Trump will be the youngest person in the race. Think about that. Yesterday, Democrats in 6 states went to the polls to cast their votes and get some coronavirus. And after a strong showing on Super Tuesday, Biden picked up right where he left off.
Former Vice President Joe Biden expanded his lead in the Democratic presidential race. Biden won in at least 4 of the 6 states which voted yesterday. He took the battleground state of Michigan by double digits. Biden now leads the race by 150 delegates, which significantly narrows any path to victory for Senator Bernie Sanders.
Looking at the math tonight, I think it's almost certain that Bernie Sanders does not have a mathematical path to becoming the Democratic nominee.
Let's shut this puppy down and let's move on and worry about November. This thing is decided. There's no reason to keep it going, but not even a day longer.
Okay. That talking raisin needs to calm down. Yes, Joe Biden had a great night. That doesn't mean you have to shut the primary down immediately. This is the presidential race, not a kissing booth in the Wuhan province, all right? Because look, it is true that because of last night's results, there have already been calls for Bernie Sanders to step aside and let the slightly younger generation take over. But let me tell you something. If you think a little turbulence is going to shake Bernie Sanders out of the race, you need to think again.
Senator Bernie Sanders earlier today making clear he has no plans to drop out of the Democratic presidential contest.
On Sunday, I very much look forward to the debate in Arizona with my friend Joe Biden. And let me be very frank as to the questions that I will be asking Joe. Joe, what are you going to do about the fact that we have the highest rate of childhood poverty? What are you going to do to end the terror that millions of undocumented people experience right now? What are you going to do to end the absurdity of billionaires buying elections? Joe, what are you going to do? What are you going to do?
What are you going to do when they come for you? Bad boys, what are you going to do? What are you going to do when they come for you? So yeah, for now, Bernie Sanders is not dropping out of the race. And what was interesting is some people were worried that the only reason Bernie was staying was to burn the party to the ground. But after today's speech, it seems like Bernie wants to push Biden to a more progressive platform. And I actually think it's really nice of Bernie that he's giving Biden the questions beforehand. Yeah, you know, he could have made it a surprise, but now he's like one of those cool teachers in school that tells you what's going to be in the test, you know? And you think they're being nice, but they just don't want to see your ass again if you get held back. That's why they're doing it. I need you to pass, okay?